Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. My name is Dalal. I'm an incoming Kellogg MMM candidate and your GMAT Club moderator today. I'm so happy and honored to have Jessica Shklar from MBA Mission today. We're going to be presenting Kellogg's application. We're going to walk you through the Kellogg application, specifically we're going to talk about the MBA full-time program, but we're going to touch on a little bit, talk a little bit about all the programs. So I'm going to hand the mic to Jessica to introduce herself and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Dalal, and welcome everyone. If you're on this call, you probably know that the Kellogg application is due on the 14th. So we thought we'd take this time to walk you through all the stuff that you may not have thought about yet in the application. So people spend so much time on the GMAT or the GRE and on the essays. And then I've heard horror stories of applicants who sign on ready to submit and then find out that there's a whole long application with these hidden short answers and lots of information you have to gather. So I love that GMAT Club is having these sessions to walk you through the applications now so that you really can put your best foot forward with every single aspect of the application. So just real quick, I am, as Dalal said, Jessica Shklar. I'm a managing director at MBA Mission. I've been a full-time admissions consultant for 13 years. Never have been so happy at a job. I love every single minute. I love helping people tell their stories. It's interesting. I was on a call with someone earlier today, actually, who said, "How have you helped people like me?" And I was able to stop and say, there is no one like you, because just because on paper you might have some experiences that are similar to someone else doesn't mean anyone else is like you. And so really what I get to do is help everyone figure out how they are not like anybody else and tell the admissions committee that. And that's pretty cool. Just for credibility, I'll give you a little bit of my background. I went to Harvard for undergrad. I then worked in college and graduate school admissions for a tiny little school out in California, at which point I decided to go to business school. I applied to 5 schools: Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Kellogg, and UCLA. I got into all 5, which is not a flex. That's just giving you some credibility that I do know where you are coming from firsthand. I've been in your shoes. And then, as I said, 13 years now of talking to thousands of applicants and helping them with their applications. And so now I get to talk to all of you and help you through the Kellogg application itself. Dalal, you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Jessica is the highest rated consultant at the GMAT Club. We've had incredible consultants. Actually, just a few days ago, we walked through the HBS app with Maria. We did also with Scott from Personal MBA Coach, the Wharton application yesterday with Jessica. We did the Stanford application today. We're going to work on Kellogg's application. So thank you for being here with us, Jessica. I really appreciate you.
On YouTube, right? Afterwards, if you're not watching this live?
Yes, so this is live on YouTube. And then, for those who cannot really watch us right now for time difference issues or whatever, they can actually watch this after. So yes. Okay, very exciting. All right, so as I mentioned, we are going to dive deeper today into just like the Kellogg full-time 2-year 2Y program. That's what they call it at Kellogg, 2Y. And I'm so excited to start this conversation here, Jessica. So let's talk a little bit about just maybe a general overview of all the programs that Kellogg offers. And just to kind of really highlight, really important is every single program has a different application form. So you have to choose a completely different. So you have to make sure that you chose the correct program that you're actually applying to, because that's the specific application for that. So yeah, Jessica, give us an overview.
You click on that link that says, please fill out this form if you want to change your program. So
Yes.
then it will pull up a list of the programs. So right there, it says program you'd like to apply to. Select the program. There's well, I guess no, where you were. Please select the full-time MBA program. Right. So there's the 1-year MBA, the 2-year MBA, the JD MBA, the MMM, the MBI, MBAI, and the MD MBA. So basically what Kellogg is telling you just with this is that they have lots of programs and they're really trying to cater to a lot of different people and address the needs of a number of people. So the 1-year MBA is a 15-month program. And it's really unique among 1-year programs because it assumes that you already have knowledge. It's not trying to cram 2 years into one. It's saying you already have a business background, so let's go deeper right away. It's really not designed for career changers, and it is designed for people who have a business background. So that if that's you, you have a business background and you're staying within your career or staying within your job, consider the 1 year. 2-year MBA is the biggest and most popular program. It is a 2-year MBA. You start, you have a 1-year summer internship, and then another year. The JD MBA is a dual degree between Kellogg Law School and Kellogg Business School. And I've worked on that application, but I believe it's one application without any extra essays. It's a shared application. And I think it's a 4-year program. Similarly, if we drop down, the MD MBA is a combination business and medical school. And those are obviously for very customized, very few people are interested in both of those because they're both so hard to get into and such a long journey. But Kellogg offers those. So the other two that are probably the most relevant for people here is the MMM, which originally when it was started, that stood for Masters in Manufacturing Management. It doesn't actually stand for that anymore, but they haven't changed the acronym. And Dalal is an incoming into that program, so she can probably tell you even more about it. But do you want to chime in?
Maybe, well, this conversation is just about the full-time 2-year MBA, but the MM program, absolutely. We could talk more in details. Maybe we can do an application walkthrough in a separate video or something like that for the MM.
Very briefly, it's a 2-year MBA. You're combined with the 2-year MBA program, but you do start 3 months early, and you end up with a master's in the MBA and a master's in design innovation. It's really for people who want to do product management, transformation, business transformation, things like that. MBAI is a joint program with the McCormick School of Engineering, and it is really designed for people who have about 5 years of experience and a STEAM or STEM background. They're really looking for a technical background already. So we can go right into the 2-year MBA from here.
Yeah, and just to mention, the MMA program, or the cohort is, I think, is 50 to 60 students or something. It's a small class every year. We start in June, actually, so it's super exciting. We get to experience a summer in Evanston, or as we call it, Heavenston, and I just found out about that a few days ago.
You are integrated with the full program. You don't do all your classes with the 50. You're very much part of the 2-year MBA at the same time.
Right. We start earlier in June, and then once the fall hits, we just start with the MBA program. Absolutely. And of course, you get 2 degrees, as you mentioned, an MS from the engineering school, MS in design innovation, and then an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management. So, okay, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this program.
It's a great program for you. It's such a perfect program.
Yes, it is. I know. I remember when we worked together, you were like, Dalal, this is a program for you. So, yes, excellent. Okay, so let's talk about the 2I program right here. Jessica, before we dive into the 2I, just really quickly, does the 1-year MBA, can we say that it's for people who are maybe older, or is there like something like that versus a 2I?
What's more important is that you already have a business background and that you're not a career changer.
Okay, so it's not like the equivalent of like the MSX at Stanford or something. Okay, and there's no internship.
Correct.
Okay, so for international students, it would probably the 2I would be better.
Yeah, the 1 year is actually 15 months. It's five quarters. So 1 year is, I look sexier than saying 15 months, but yeah, it is. So it doesn't have the internship, but it has an extended curriculum from a 1 year, and it assumes a core level of business knowledge. So they actually will have experience already that you should have to have had.
All right, let's talk about this section right here.
So here, this is not going to make or break your decision. They are not going to say, oh, you checked off data analytics and not energy, therefore we're not going to take you. What I would say is you should pick areas of interest, but also it needs to make sense with your story. If you talk in your essays and your career goal about wanting to work in energy and sustainability, check off energy and sustainability here. You can also check off strategy and technology management if those all fit. So these need to make sense, but this isn't what the school is going to be making its decision on.
Okay. And it does say over here that there's unique pathways, right? So it's important to mention if you if you choose a 2I full-time program, there are unique pathways. And I think, Jessica, that's what makes Kellogg really just interesting and unique in a lot of ways, really.
it's really this level of depth that they have these, curated pathways, this is faculty curated courses in addition to the majors. So you can really tailor the curriculum to exactly what you're looking for. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you can tailor the curriculum to that too, to learn more or to learn in more general areas.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So this section here says, do you have a pending application with another school at Northwestern?
Yeah, that's like with the if you're doing the dual degree or something like that. It's just these are all the options.
All right. Okay. For reapplicants.
Yes. So reapplicants do have to write an additional essay, which is a 250 word. What is different about your application now than before? Most schools will ask that. You can submit the same GMAT score if it's still valid. You don't need to take the test again. You do need to submit a new application and 2 letters of recommendation. They will have the option of looking back at your past application. And I do want to just say, there's a myth out there that reapplicants are damaged goods. And it's just so not the case. In fact, I believe that if you look on their, not here on the application, but if you look at the Kellogg website where they talk about reapplications, they have like in big letters, "We love reapplicants."
Yeah.
Because when you think logically about it, it's just search Kellogg reapplication. I think that's where I saw it.
Yes.
When you think about it logically, if someone is a great applicant and shows that they're a great applicant in year 2, why the school would be foolish to say, "Oh, but you were interested in us before. See, we welcome reapplicants." The first thing they say. So there's just no downside. You do have to explain how your application is different, and that could be a new GMAT score, could be new career direction, could be new activities, but don't feel badly if you are a reapplicant. I've seen many reapplicants get in.
Right. Yes, I've heard stories of a lot of reapplicants getting in, especially if they show growth and what changed from the last year to this year. Sometimes even their goals change after that 1 year, and they
can change. That's the part that has to be navigated a little more carefully, right?
Yeah.
You say, last year I wanted to do nonprofit and this year I want to do investment banking. They're going to think you're just picking something randomly. But if you say, I have the same long-term goal, but see a different path for getting there, or my short-term goal remains the same, but I've realized that it could take me in a couple of different directions, or this project that I've been working on has clarified my goal. That's what I would think about, is how do you sharpen rather than do a radical departure.
Okay. So in this section right here, the personal background, I think I mentioned this yesterday, with the Stanford application, your name must match your passport, right? So, and they do mention it over here. They say a preferred first name is different than your given name. The given name on the passport usually is your first name and your, the middle name, right? So for me, for example, it's like something like that, but that doesn't mean that's what they call me, right? They call me Dalal, but that's what it looks like on basically the passport. So you need to make sure that it matches your passport. This is very important. Here, basically, just hiding the address. Here, basically, just up there, it's like really just your address, right? Getting to just put the information of your address where you are located. Your email address is already, there. You can change the email address that you joined with, of course.
My suggestion is, like you have here, use your Gmail, use your personal email address. Don't use a work address, because A, you might not be letting work know that you're leaving. B, you probably don't want to be distracted nonstop with work email, with business school emails while you're at work. C, your boss probably doesn't want you to be distracted with work emails. And D, really worst case scenario, what if something happens? Company folds, you have something go wrong, you leave the job. You don't want all that information to be in your work email. So submit with personal. It doesn't make you look less professional. Submit with a personal email address. They know that you're leaving your job. That's what they want. They want you to go to school there, which means leaving your job. So there's no issue with.
Right, that's a good point. Jessica, for a LinkedIn profile, I've actually had conversations with people. Some people don't really have LinkedIn profile. They don't care about it. How does it make or break your application? What do you think?
I don't think it makes or breaks it, and it is optional, and you have to take them at face value that anything that they say is optional really is. They cannot judge you for it or not. But that being said, so many people do have LinkedIn profiles that we think the easiest thing is simply, once you finalize your resume, put your resume up as your LinkedIn profile and leave it at that. Okay. It's just easier that way. You don't have to have one. And the other thing is, please, I didn't mention this yesterday, I meant to check your privacy settings on all your social media. You can actually download a social media guide from our website, but if you have that picture that someone else posted of you drunk at a party, you don't want that showing up when the admissions officer does a search for you.
Right.
So any of your TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and whatever, Be Real, all those social media things that you're using, just check your privacy settings. You really don't want admissions officers looking at those.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a student who was actively posting, like tweeting his political views, and they were harsh at times, and he would get a lot of engagement on them and whatever. And he keeps saying, like, my application was great, but I don't know why I got rejected. I don't know. And I was like, you should have kind of really looked at your social media presence, because he mentioned that, so he probably knows why he got rejected or something. They do
clarify that it's not someone's opinions per se that are going to get them rejected, but
Yes.
it's the judgment shown by posting the opinions and the tone of the opinions. So there is not one political mindset that's acceptable for the schools. You will really find that out when you get there, that there's people from all mindsets, from all political persuasions. It's the judgment that's shown.
Yes, absolutely. And I know with mbaMission, you guys have a guide for social media presence. So if you have any questions, you can kind of take a look at that, or
links are up in the chat right now, but I think there are Kellogg Insider's Guide should be there, and the personal statement guide. If you click up a level to publications under the personal statement guide, so you go just back up to free guides and click onto free guides, and then there, managing your social media presence. So it's just mbaMission free guides. Publications,
okay.
Yeah, free.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so bio and citizenship information, right? So just like put your information over here. Beyond your bio and contact info, we want to continue to get to know you. So your hometown information, right? Your gender identity and sexual orientation.
On this to answer, again, they cannot make a determination. They will not judge you for prefer not to answer if you prefer not to. Right. But remember that the goal of the admissions office is to get to know who you really are. And so putting prefer not to answer keeps them at arm's length. It prevents them from their goal of getting to know who you are. It does not mean they're going to judge your answer one way or the other, but it's just one barrier from pushing them away from their goal. It's like writing an essay that doesn't really talk about your core values. It's just keeping them a little more arm's distance than they want. So it's an option, and you certainly can do that, and there may be legitimate reasons for it. Recognize that there may be a cost, not in how the admissions office views your answer, in how they view how well they're able to understand your story.
Right. Good point. An additional information section here, just knowing the full name of your spouse, partner, significant others. So just, if you have that, just add it. I think this is optional, right? If you don't have it, it's fine.
Yeah, you shouldn't make one up.
Okay. Okay. Professional experience. This is the fun part. Okay. So let's talk about this section over here. So if we add employer, there's a lot of little boxes, I believe, in here, right? Let's talk about these.
So for the position, title, start date, please be honest, because if you get accepted, the admissions committee is going to send your information to a background check company, and they are going to do a background check. They're not going to check, did you volunteer 3 hours a week when you said it was 4? Although obviously you should be honest as well, but they will check start and leaving dates, why you left, salary information. And so be honest, because it prevents a lot of confusion later. Dalal, you can talk a little bit. You were completely honest in your application, but there were still some quirks about your having been an entrepreneur in another country that caused that background check to be extensive.
Yeah, it's because I come from an entrepreneurial background, and I was doing business in Saudi Arabia, and I had to reach out to the ex-business partner and ask him to pull out some paperwork. And it was just like a mess, because especially if you're not really dealing with active in the business anymore. So it can be a little bit hard. So maybe just keep track if if you operate a business, maybe just have all the paperwork in one place in case they ask for it, because they will, so I guess that's my piece of information there. But
very good activity to do once you've submitted, and while you have all this nervous energy that you can't do anything with when you're waiting to hear about interviews. Use that, obviously go to the gym, get stuff done at your work, things like that. But if you're looking, you feel like you need to do something, pull your information together for a background check. Hopefully it'll be really relevant and you'll need it. But at least it gives
Jessica, you brought memories back. Like I remember those days when I was waiting to hear back. Oh my God. Remember, Jessica? I would email Jessica every day.
Really?
Are they going to respond? Are they worst time ever?
It's much harder than the actual working on the application. So here you have supervisor name, supervisor title. What if you are not telling your supervisor that you're applying? Still fill it out. They're not going to contact your supervisor. Okay? If you're nervous about it, just put maybe under that reason for leaving it. Just, I do not give permission. Please do not contact my supervisor. They do not know that I'm leaving. We'll talk about that in terms of recommendations later, but don't freak out by that because they're asking for the name or title. They will not go ahead and contact them. If you want to be extra sure, just indicate that in the note. Description of duties should be very straightforward. It's not the same as your resume because your resume should talk about your accomplishments and impact, not just a job description. And Dalal, I think you have a blog post, or obviously one of you has a blog post you can post on accomplishments, not responsibilities from our website. But fundamentally, your resume should showcase the impact that you had in each of your jobs, in each of your projects. While here, when it's description, they're just trying to get a sense of your job. They want to know direct reports. That's people who report to you, not who you report to. Supervisor is your supervisor, direct report is who reports to you. You are your direct report. Your intern is your direct report. So they want description of job, and that's just to get a sense, who do you interact with? What's the scope of your work?
Right. And they do say that you have the ability to list up to 5 entries, right? And go ahead.
And so some schools like Stanford and Harvard, they will say, even if you've had multiple jobs within one company, like Stanford says, if you've had multiple jobs within one company, still only list the company once. Harvard says, if you've had multiple jobs within one company, only list it once, unless you feel like the jobs are really different, in which case you can list it twice. And here, Kellogg doesn't give directions. So you can list each job within a company separately.
Okay, yeah. So if you started as an associate and then you become a senior associate, those are 2 separate jobs, 2 separate entries. Okay. And of course, convert all amounts into US dollars when you're reporting salaries or bonuses. That's very important over here. And then for the short answer questions, of course, there's always like tips in here. It says, do not use enter or return keys as your data will not display properly. Okay, so
go ahead.
So I just want to know. So basically what they're saying is like, just keep writing. Do not.
These are all character count essays. So character counts are, you have such little space. A hard return will affect how it displays. It will also count it as an extra character, and you don't have room. By the way, spaces do count as your characters. So we forgot to mention this. One of my key pieces of advice before you start filling this out is don't fill it out in the application itself. Fill it out in a Google Doc or a Word doc, because you will want to use this for other applications. You're going to want to go back and edit and revise it, not do it your first time through. It's just easier. And also, if you forget to save in the application, it's not lost. So you can also go back to the employer description. There's one more point I wanted to make. Down where it says website, here, reason for leaving. For your current job, that should be NA. Really, you want to think of that not as saying reason for leaving, but reason that I left, or reason for having left. And since you have not left your current job, you don't need to say anything there. This is not, some people, this is a mini career essay. I will be leaving in order to join my family business. It's not, it's, I have not left.
Right, because if you say yes, I think if you say yes, this is not removed. Okay, you just say NA. Okay. All right. Years of full-time upon matriculation. So matriculation is the time that you start.
The fancy word for when you start. Yep.
Okay. And this is post-undergrad.
Post-undergrad, pre-business school. Yep.
Okay. Please upload your resume, as Jessica mentioned earlier. Accomplishments, not responsibilities. Very, very, very important.
1 page.
Because I believe the resume is really what makes you unique, right? Because it's what you did and your accomplishments, right?
think about it. A resume should be a resume for you, not for a generic person in your role. So if you put on the resume bullet point, consult with clients on business strategy, well, you're not the only one in your firm if you're a consultant who can say that. So that doesn't teach the business school anything about you. It just teaches them what a consultant at McKinsey does, and they probably already know that. So you want to talk about your clients and your impact. I'm not going to ask Dalal to go back there, but if you do go to our publications, our free guides page, on that page under admissions guides, we do have a resume guide, which has sample resume, and there it is, resume guide. It has sample resume. It has an annotated resume that talks about what's important. It talks about how you write your bullet points, the order of the sections, things like that.
Okay. Okay. I love these guides. Love them.
I do.
I read all of them when I was writing I had to. All of them. I did my homework, Jessica. That's probably why I got in. I don't know. Okay. Financial sponsorship.
Sponsorship is really, will you be, is your company sponsoring you? Yes, no, I don't know, right? There will not make a value judgment about this, right? If you don't have company sponsorship, welcome to the majority of applicants, right? Yes. Very few people do. It just, again, gives them more of a picture of who you are and your story.
Right. So company or government entity. So in the case of students from my country, Kuwait, we usually get sponsorships from the government. So, you can either put pending or yes, if you have that already. But yes, like you said, most of students probably will have no, unless their company sponsoring or government. Okay. Career goals over here. This is the fun part that took a long time for me to figure out because we were kind of brainstorming a lot of really just things that would make sense with my past and my life experience and kind of where I want to go after Kellogg. So let's talk about this section.
So here's the key thing. Kellogg is not going to accept you and then as you graduate, not give you a diploma because the job you're about to start isn't what you wrote about in your application. Okay? They are not asking career goals to lock you in. They're asking so that they force you to really think through whether the school is the right place for you, so that you think through your strengths and interests and transferable skills.
Yes.
And because recruiting starts usually within 6 weeks or so of getting to campus. And so they want you to be prepared to pivot in other directions. There's a big difference between showing up and saying, this is what I'm really interested in. This is the area, the functional areas and the industries that I'm good at. And this is what I need to learn that I think will make me a more well-rounded candidate. And saying, I have no idea what I want to do, right? An admissions officer from Columbia described that as drinking from a fire hose. You can't possibly do it. So they're not going to reject you based on what industry you choose. It should make sense with your essay. And this is a career essay for Kellogg. It's broken into 3, we skipped the first one, the significant accomplishment, but then it's short-term goal, long-term goal, and what drives your interest in these goals, which is really, why is this the goal that you want? This is based on your past experience and your recognition of what you're interested in and where you want to go with it. So our personal statement guide, which talks about the career essay, is really, here it's broken into 3 mini ones. There is not a chance here to talk about why Kellogg, but there will be a chance in the interview, the video questions, which are part of the application. When it comes to the first one, the most significant career accomplishment, I would really try to brainstorm ahead of time. Look at what you're writing about for the essays. Look at what you're going to be writing about for the career goal, especially the third question, what drives your interest in these goals, which may be an experience or project you had. And then think, what do they not yet know about me? You want to try to keep the admissions office learning about you with each section. So what has been your most significant career accomplishment may or may not be about your career goals. It could be a specific project. It could be something you initiated at your company. It could be a personal goal of having overcome a big learning curve and to excel at something. It could be, there are 240 characters worth of story here, but try not to be 100% duplicative with something else that you're saying elsewhere in the application.
Jessica, if you remember, we had long discussion about actually the this section right here specifically, what has been your most significant career accomplishment? I think you mentioned to me before, like you said, Dalal, because I mentioned something about like, oh, I'm so proud of something that I did years ago. And you're like, well, we don't want the school to kind of really think that the most significant career accomplishment was like done years ago, maybe something more current, right?
And in your case, without putting you on the spot, you're a
No,
little
it's
older.
okay. I'm okay with that.
You're a little older than the typical applicants. You had more years. So you were really talking about something that was more than 5 years in the past. That
Yes.
seems too long ago. Something that's 2 years, I would say, is probably still fine. But what you don't want is them to look at it and say, oh, her best years are behind her, right? Oh, she hasn't done much since that. She hasn't done much in the last 3 years.
Maybe they are. Oh my God.
No, they're not. You've got so much ahead of you.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. But okay, great. And then your short-term, I don't want to ask too much of you, I think, because if anyone wants to really just be specific about wants to talk about their story specifically, maybe they can book a free consultation with you. There is a way to kind of write a short-term career goal, right? There's like a template or a way to do that.
I would say that the approach to any career essay, and this one happens to be broken into 3 categories. Harvard's is a similar length, it's 500 characters, but Wharton, on the other hand, is 500 words. So it's always going to be different, but you always want to think of a career essay as spanning short-term goals, long-term goals, and how your experience has prepared you, or in this case, it's what drives your interest. Often we then also say, how will the school fill the gap and help you get there? And fundamentally, you want this to be a gap between where you are and where you're going that's ambitious, meaning it's not something that you could just get without the MBA, but also attainable. It makes sense. It builds in some way off your past experience. Even if you're looking to be a career changer, they don't want you to, they're not going to say, oh, you've been so successful up until now, throw all that away, right? They want to say, what are you taking from those past experiences? So it can be a small gap if you're looking to just enhance your career. It can be a big gap if you're changing your careers, but there has to be some kind of logic, and which is really what that third question is getting at. So it's ambitious but attainable. I always ask people to think about if they were interviewing for their dream job. If you were in that interview chair and the hiring manager says to you, Dalal, what are you going to bring to the table on day one? Tell us what you're going to do in your first week or month. Well, you're not going to say, actually, I don't know anything about this job, but it just sounds cool, right? You're going to say, well, I know it's a new industry for me, but based on this experience and this experience, I would be able to contribute in this way. And that's what this essay is doing. So It's almost like you verbalize it as an interview. You all know how to do this. Now it's just writing it down.
Okay, perfect. The industry, of course, is completely different from the function, right? So very important over here. Okay, military experience, of course. If you say yes, there's other questions in here. If you say no, no questions, and then sharing your accomplishment. So what would be considered as an accomplishment here?
Great question. So they had asked for 4 awards, and they asked during or post. So the easiest are academic awards that you got in college, magna cum laude, whatever. But try to vary it up so that if you have more than 4 to choose from, vary so it's some that are in college and some post. Awards after college could be a fast promotion. It could be a lot of companies give kind of customer service awards or internal awards, applause awards, they're often called. Just sometimes they give team awards. It could be anything through volunteer work that you were recognized with. I will tell you that of all the sections on the application, if there's one that more people leave blank than any others, it is this one. A lot of people simply don't have post-college awards. And if you do, that's great. If you don't, okay, it would be better if you did, but it's not uncommon that some companies just don't have those kinds of awards.
Okay, would you consider president of a club an award or recognition?
If you don't have anything else to fill in, I would put it on there.
Okay.
I'd have one of them be a president. Okay.
All right, so let's continue here. Okay, so the institutions, I think over here, so you just add your institution. Of course, you try not to, or don't actually transfer your GPA to the American US system, like the US system, don't do that. So, you know, the outcome goes through thousands of applications. They're very much aware of your country and the educational system and the GPA over there. I am a first generation college graduate. I'm kind of surprised that they don't have a box in here, you know, because usually other schools, they kind of do that.
Yeah. And one other thing, just scroll back up for 1 minute on the institutions. Just everyone should really read very carefully each school's instructions, because some, if you study abroad, will ask for a separate transcript. Some will say that if it's on your regular transcript, you don't have to submit one. Every school is going to be different. So just really, they know their instructions, so you should know them too, because you can't pull one over on them. Like, they know what they want to see. So be sure that you're aware of time too.
Yes, I think for me over here, it was like community college that led to transferring credits to my undergrad degree. So I put those two over here. Okay, professional certifications, if you have any or don't, that's fine. Okay, continue. All right, so submitting your scores, of course, GMAT, GRE, the code, just make sure that you look at the code over here. It's really important to do that. Okay, please make sure to manually write. So you also need to add the test here by uploading, you know, your unofficial test score report. Okay, so that's really important.
So you can test the day of the application as long as you get an informal score. It might be a little stressful to do that, but you don't need to have the official score report. And then also, it's fine if you've taken the GMAT or the GRE multiple times. The schools really like to see that kind of effort. If they believe you could do better, they want to see you do better. So don't hesitate if you have to take it a couple times.
I've seen cases, Jessica, where students actually have the GMAT or GRE scheduled on the deadline, and you know, you just have to contact really just the AdCom and make sure that they're okay to take that. I think there was a lot of flexibility the last 2 years. I'm not really sure if there is any now, but you're just going to have to make sure that you communicate all of that clearly.
You can't submit a score after the deadline, so you don't need to communicate that. But if you have a self-reported score, you have an informal test report, you can use that.
Right. I think with Haas, I think last year, I think I did something similar like that and they were fine with that. But I think it was, like I said, it was just like, probably the flexibility was because of the pandemic and all of that, but maybe not after now. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the essays. All right. So we're talking again about the 2i program here. So let's talk about the essays, Jessica.
So does that say 480? Oh, 480 remaining. Okay. It's actually 450 word limit, which is interesting. It says 480 words because it's a 450 word limit. So one of the things about Kellogg is they like to have lots of subphrases within their essays. Yes. So I really recommend you underline each section of this essay and make sure that you use that as a test to yourself to make sure you're answering the full question. So in this one, it's kind of red herring line. It gives us the context, but it's not part of the question. Kellogg's purpose is to educate and equip leaders who create lasting value. In the past, that had the word brave in there. It doesn't anymore. Now, here's the question. Provide a recent example. Recent means within the last 2 or maybe 3 years, where you demonstrated leadership and created value. What challenges did you face and what did you learn? So this has basically 5 sections to it. The example, how it showed leadership, how it created value, challenges, and what did you learn? They're asking for self-reflection with the learning. It does not need to be in this order.
Oh, right.
Start with challenges. You do not need to separate it out. Example, leadership. So you're writing this outline. You don't need to do it that way. And
I'm just repeating what you're saying just to make clear that we have to kind of remember all right. So don't follow this, but you know, just for clarification.
About this question is to me, it's a real throwback to when I started in this job, and almost every school had one bragging question. Show me how great you are, where you got to give an example of leadership and really do a deep dive. I feel like so many questions today are trying to get a theme where you wrap lots of different stories and topics and themes and anecdotes into one macro one. And this is just like, oh, I'm going to do a deep dive, 450 words into one amazing experience that I led, that I showed great. So I love this essay because
I love it too. I love it too because the end of it, you mentioned in a few sentences what you learned, right? Throughout this entire experience, what you learned. I can still remember my essay, right? I remember like doing business cross-cultural, I remember to kind of consider this and consider that when doing business. And it was, yeah, I love that essay too. Good essay.
have that. You could start with what you learned, right? You can start
Oh,
anywhere.
wow. Okay.
But the point is, make sure you have all of the sections here. But I like that you just can do a deep dive. The only time I would suggest maybe adding a couple of other anecdotes or stories in is if it is an example that's a little bit older, 2+ years, maybe in the what you learned, you might want to show how you learned it by showing more recent examples where you demonstrated that learning.
Okay. Okay. All right. Essay 2. Values are what guide us in our life and work. What values are important to you, Jessica, and how have they influenced you?
So again, there's this little intro sentence, values are what guide us in our life and work. Then there's the question, which has multiple parts. What values are important to you and how have they influenced you? Notice the word values is plural. So it's not one value. It's what values, that's 2 or more, are important to you and how have they influenced you. So again, this is a multi-part essay. It has at least 4 sections, right? A value that's important to you and how it's influenced you. Another value that's important and how it's influenced you. Notice also the word value. Scroll back up, Dalal. Look at essay 1.
Oh, essay 1.
Look, give an example of a time when you demonstrated leadership and created value. And now go down and say, what are your values? Kellogg uses the word value in both of these essays, but they mean different things. In the first essay, value is how you made a situation better, how you brought savings, how you made something happen in the organization.
Right.
This one is very internal values. What drives you? What is important to you? So here you are giving impacts, whether they influenced you, what are the decisions that value that you have has chosen, have led you to make?
Okay. Okay. Would you say, Jessica, for essay 1 or essay 2, it would help to kind of just like do a little bit of research and see what matters to Kellogg and the school and the mission of the school, or does that not really help?
Always helpful to understand what the school wants. They sort of do tell you that, right? At the beginning of essay 1, Kellogg's goal is to equip leaders, equip and inspire leaders who create lasting value. So that's what they're telling you, what that's their purpose. Neither of these essays asks you why you want to go to Kellogg. So if you want to reflect their values, for example, Kellogg is very community driven, very much about a student-driven place, lots of social events, lots of collaboration and teamwork. So you would know, if you know that, I wouldn't suggest writing a value about solitariness and independence and not relying on other people. That's probably going to be at odds with the ethos of Kellogg. So to that degree, yes. But beyond that, you don't have to fit in like why Kellogg. You just want to understand the school.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. The reapplicant essay. I think we talked about that briefly.
250 words. What steps have you taken to strengthen your candidacy? This can cover personal, hobbies, interests you took on. It can cover professional, new projects, new jobs. It can cover career, new direction, leadership through activities, GMAT score, and improved knowledge of Kellogg. You do not need to cover all 6 of those areas, but you certainly can cover any of them.
Okay. And then if we're covering more than one area, do we make it in a way that it's like bullet point type of thing, like every area, or just make it all flow?
Yeah, I don't usually do bullet points, but this is a much more straightforward essay. I mean, this one is, I've taken the following steps to improve my candidacy. I have seen bullet points actually now that I think about it. So this is more straightforward.
Okay. All right. So we have the additional information section over here is where you address weaknesses or anything that you have on your application.
So this is extenuating circumstances. One thing I want to be really clear, the schools are reading a lot of information about you, and they don't want to read more than they ask for. So don't use this space unless you need it. But if you need it, use it. So this is not another key leadership experience or another extracurricular you haven't had a chance to talk about. This is an extenuating circumstance, a gap in work, as they say, your choice of recommenders, a failing grade, a low semester. Even it could be, I've seen people, how their bonus was calculated. This is basically your chance to say to the admissions office, hey, I know you're going to have a question about X. Let me tell you my version of that story. Let me explain why you shouldn't have a question. Let me reassure you. Okay? And it's a very straightforward essay.
Okay, so not really about your personal life, more so about your application and things, right? So not really.
Life, if like you had a job gap because you were ill for 6 months, then yes.
Oh, right. That's what okay, great. Perfect. Okay, moving on. All right. So how do you spend your time? Kellogg is interested. They want to know, how do you spend your time, right? So activities, arts, activity clubs, community activity, religious activities, whatever it is, right?
And you can list up to 6 with Kellogg. So if you click on the type,
yes,
it's going to ask when, similar to the awards we looked at earlier, during and post. If you have only post-college activities, that's okay. If you have 6 post-college activities and 6 in-college activities and 2 post-college, please list the 2 post ones. They really do want to see current activity. And the reason is they know everyone had more activities during college. They get that. But they really want to know that you're going to be a contributing and active member of the Kellogg community, not just sit in class. And the best way they can tell that is to look and see, how do you engage with the world around you today and back in school? So you list the type of activity, your role, that was what role you played. So you were a member, or you were a vice president, or you were a coordinator.
Volunteer.
Where it took place. Frequency of participation, hours per week, that's never going to be exact. Don't panic. You can annualize. Some activities are like 30 weeks a year. Some people have 10 hours a week for a month and then not at all. That's why they ask for the dates, and they know that all this has to be approximate because nothing fits into a formula. And now your description of participation is really tiny, 100 characters, and again, spaces count. So this is really a description of what you did. This will probably overlap with your resume unless you had to cut this from your resume. So if you felt like your resume was getting too long and you cut college activities, or at least you cut what you actually did with that organization, here's a chance to offset that and to add more. Even if it is on your resume, try to add something different. Try to add more about the project. Even in 100 characters, you can tell them something more about you.
Okay. Right. Yeah. I think I added 2 college activities during college and then 2 that were outside or something like that. I remember volunteering. So that was fun, actually. This section was fun. The international experiences. Jessica, why does Kellogg care about this?
Well, they're trying to get a sense of who you are. That's sort of the answer to everything. They want to know that you get along with people who are different from you. They want to know that you are open-minded. They want to know that you have an awareness that the world is a big place. Doesn't mean you have to have traveled, but it does tell them something about your interests, your experiences, your energy towards the world.
Right.
Okay? They might know that you have not. Now, I could see, for example, if you have nothing to fill out because you grew up in a very financially strapped setting where no one really around you, you couldn't possibly have the funds to go to travel, and then you put yourself through college, and since then you've been working and you support your family. I could actually see an optional essay, that additional information, the extenuating circumstances, where you say, I'd like to point out that I have not had international experiences, and this is why. And I'm so excited about the chance at Kellogg to be able to go on Quest or whatever else. So it's an unusual use of it, but I could see that if you felt badly that you didn't have anything. Most people get on something or something.
Yeah, right. If you've never had an experience like that, you could definitely address that and that's why I love the additional information essay, because you can add things that you have not filled throughout the application. So because there's a reason for not doing that. So you want to explain that. Okay, jobs or work study programs.
Okay. The reason for this is it gives a lot of understanding for your GPA and also for your background. If you did not have to work at all and your grades were terrible, that's a different profile than someone whose grades were not great, but they were working 40 hours a week.
Okay.
your grades were amazing and you worked 40 hours a week, that tells them something different about you. So that's why they want to know. They just were trying to understand who you were.
I like this section because I don't think, with the other schools, I don't think I've seen that, but this is kind of showing how Kellogg really cares, and maybe they're trying to link everything together. If you have a low GPA, oh, she's been working, supporting, doing this, doing that. So that's really cool. I like that. Okay, so the MBA prep organizations, of course, if you don't know any of those, you can Google them, take a look, and if you have not participated, that's fine. You don't have to do anything here. Okay, all right. The recommendation letters is the last thing that we're going to touch on. Let's talk about this part right here, recommendations.
I'll probably touch on the video questions that are part of the Kellogg application. Once you submit you have 96 hours to submit 3 video questions.
Right.
We'll talk about recommendations. They want 2. Ideally, those are 1 from your current supervisor and 1 from a recent supervisor. If you cannot ask your current supervisor for a recommendation, they give you this option. They also said under that section for the extenuating circumstances, they said you could explain it in more depth. But here, supervisor does not know what I'm applying. I work for a family member. I'm self-employed. I'm unemployed. I changed jobs within the last year, other conflict of interest, and then please provide details. So I wouldn't repeat the information since they have that here. You don't need to use that extenuating circumstance essay unless there's more to it than just a 1 line. But ideally, it is a supervisor, someone who's worked with you recently, is senior to you, and really thinks highly of you and is willing to do this. Mm-hmm. We do have also under the publications, one of my favorite publications that we offer is the recommendation guide, has a subsection called For the Recommender. And it is actually for your recommender. It is a section that talks about what makes for a good recommendation letter, has an annotated letter of recommendation that explains why it's good. And it's something that you can give your recommender and say, this is how to write one for business school.
Okay. Let me go back here. Yeah, so waiving your right. So always check that. Right?
Waive your right. Waiving your right, look at the word right. It is basically saying I'm waiving my legal right to access this report. It is not saying my recommender can't show it to me. This is a legal agreement between you and the school saying I cannot sue Kellogg to show me this report, this recommendation letter. It has nothing to do with whether the recommender actually shows you the letter or not. So you might want to clarify that with the recommender. I've heard recommenders say, you waived your right, I'm not allowed to show it. No, it's that check box is between you and the school.
I would say when choosing, when choosing a recommender, try to choose someone that is really passionate about, someone who's really passionate about helping you and can speak highly of you and knows you very well, right? Because they're going to write a lot of details and answer a lot of questions. And then of course their work email address is really important. And I think, Jessica, we talked about if that's not available for whatever reason, or they don't want to use it, they can use their undergrad.
Most undergrad institutions by now will give you an alumni address. You might have to walk your, if your recommender is older or not plugged into that and doesn't want to use their work email, you might have to walk them through it. Business schools do not really want a Gmail or Yahoo or AOL address.
Okay. AOL. Is that still alive? Okay.
You know what? My husband still has his because he has never, for a lifetime, he doesn't use email very often. He uses his work and he just has never gotten around. We're still paying for it. He's never gotten around to bring it all over. That's one of our projects. That's one of our projects for this year, actually.
Okay. All right. So if you have a family member who's a graduate of Kellogg, right, you say yes, and then you mention who the family member is, right?
And if don't feel badly if you can't say yes to this.
Yes.
Okay? Just providing context. It might weigh them a little bit towards thinking that you would accept them if they accepted you, but it's not, alumni network, especially, by the way, especially in this age of diversity and commitment to diversity and inclusion, there's a lot of sort of backlash to the concept of legacy admissions because it runs counter to trying to build a more diverse class. I know there was a recent discussion among several business schools where MIT actually challenged some of the other business schools and said, you're still taking legacy admits. That's just not, that runs against what you're saying about diversity. And I love that.
Right.
If you if you go to the website for Kellogg, instead of to the application, but you go to Kellogg's website there, and we talk about applying MBA, how to apply to your MBA.
The 2-year, I think you're probably talking about the what's needed, right? So for the interview
section, yeah. If you look for the admissions section, nope, go back up to the top.
okay.
You see where it's admissions at the top of the page, right to the left of the big red button. Yeah, full-time admissions. And then tips on applying, and scroll down there.
Did I click on that? Why does
You
it
did.
not? Oh yeah,
Apply.
okay.
And then go to essays.
Okay, essays.
Nope,
Oops.
up.
Essays.
And I think if you keep scrolling down, there's some other application essays for the other program. And here we have the video essays. Once you hit submit, you will get a link from the school. And you have 96 hours to log into a site and answer 3 questions. Mm-hmm. So this is part of the application. And it really speaks to Kellogg of saying, we want to put a face to a name. We want to be able to get a sense of who you are, not just through the written word, but through seeing you on camera. Mm-hmm. So it's total 20-25 minutes. It's not a big deal. You log in, you give some introductory information, they walk you through what it's like. Then you have 3 questions. I cannot remember if I think you have time to practice, but you cannot re-record. And I think it's practice and 45 seconds to answer, but they'll tell you what it is. Please introduce yourself to the admissions committee. Go back through your material. What do they not know about you? Is there something else you haven't yet shared with them? That'll be hard, but you might find something. That's your introducing yourself to the admissions committee and your future classmates. Video essay 2 is your first chance to sell them on why Kellogg's the right place for you. It's really your only chance in the application, right? What path are you interested in? How will you get there? And why is this the right program for you? This is essentially your career essay, like those 3 mini essays in the application, but it's your first time to say why Kellogg. So I think if you have 60 seconds for this, save a full 30 seconds for why Kellogg and be specific. Don't just say Kellogg has a great community, because yes, but most business schools do. So talk specifically about the path and the majors and people you've met and what you like. Talk fast, but talk clearly. And then video essay 3, they won't tell you this ahead of time, but typically everyone has the same essay. So as long as you're not the first one out there, the question usually floats around. Last year, the question was something like, the last year has been faced with unprecedented challenges from
I remember that question.
To COVID to Me Too. How have you faced these challenges, or one of these challenges, and what have you learned? So it's nothing you need a lot of preparation for. It's really about your life. So they will give you, I don't remember, Dalal, is it 30 seconds or something to think once they've given you the question? And then you get to. The goal here is not to craft the perfect answer. It's to be yourself. Be a nice version of yourself. Don't be in like ripped clothing, and don't wear a Chicago Booth t-shirt and, take down the dirty calendar on the back wall or whatever it is, right? But it's your chance to have them put a personality and a face together.
Yeah, I would say just a few tips here. Definitely be yourself. Rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Do not memorize. That's super important. What I would do is just put like flashcards next to you, just like with like big words, like 3 words or something. That's what I did. And if you need to look at them really quickly, just like that, right? Or put it on your screen, whatever. But
your screen so you're not looking down. Take them right next to your camera. And it says at the bottom there, it's 20 seconds to prepare and a minute for your response. And those of you from other countries, you should know that they always have this question given both verbally and in writing on the screen, so that you can process it in 2 different ways.
Yes. Jessica, one last thing here. Please introduce yourself to the admissions committee. I know we talked about that a lot, but this is not me talking about my entire resume, right?
Well, it's what do you want? It says consider this as your opportunity to share what you would want your classmates and our admissions committee to know about you. This is your 1-minute elevator pitch. So you might talk about your career, you might talk about your background, you might talk about sort of the key value that drives you that you haven't talked about in the value essay. It can be any of the above.
Okay. Jessica, I think we are done. The honor code here, of course, just read it carefully. And then the non-discrimination. And then of course, see here, there's emphasis, the name, right? The application fee waiver, of course, you can get that. You can get that if you're part of Forte or any of those places or organizations. And then I think the last thing here, Jessica, would be just if you have been suspended or disciplined or anything like that, is there an essay to write here?
Check off yes.
There is.
Sedative explanation. Go out to the next one. Yes.
Okay.
Next one. I'm doing this for a reason. Go to the crime. Have you been convicted of a crime? Yes. What does it not say? It doesn't say, oh, don't bother applying.
Okay.
Right? It does explain to us why.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're a shoo-in, but it says they're willing to listen to you and they understand people have overcome things in their past. I have seen people get in with honor code violations. I've seen people get in with DUIs. I had a client who got in with a 3-year job gap. I had someone who was picked up by the federal police at an airport and marched into a holding room while they were accusing him of something. And it took 10 months to resolve it. He was innocent, but it took a long time. Got in. Wow. So they want an explanation. Now, if it's really big, it's probably in one of your essays. But even if use this chance, if the school finds out about something and you didn't tell them, that looks really bad. That looks worse than if you told them up front.
Right, right. Okay, Jessica, we have.
That being said, look at the language, right? Go back to the, if you were accused but not convicted, right? Have you been received written discipline, been suspended? Well, no, if you just suddenly got a warning, that might not be even count to the right level of being disciplined. So be very careful to answer everything asked, but you don't have to do more than asked, right? Have you been convicted of a crime is very different than have you been accused of a crime.
Yes, that's a very good point, actually, right? If you've been accused, it's not like you've been convicted, right? Okay. Yes, say that. I'm sorry.
You don't have to answer that, but you might choose to get ahead of the situation.
Okay, Jessica, we have one question just really quickly. Someone asked about the activities section. Jiffy asked, is the activities section for hobbies only or only things that would count as service?
The activities is any activity you do. That could be outside of work as a hobby. It could be on the weekends as a volunteer activity. It could even be something that you do at work that is not part of your work. If you need a monthly service trip through your company, for your company, or I had a client who put together on his own language tables. He just found people who wanted to learn languages and he matched them up, and every week he sent out a list, and it wasn't part of his job, but it happened to be
tables. Language tables? What is that?
He would match people up. So, if you wanted to learn Japanese, he would find a native Japanese speaker and he would say, okay, this week you two are having lunch. So he would match.
Cool.
20 matches by the time he had finished this. So he would have 60 people in the program by the time he finished it. And it was intense. It was really cool. So that was not part of his job. So an activity is anything you do that you're not paid for by your primary job. And I suppose depending on the definition, if it's a part-time job, maybe it could count here as well. It depends if Kellogg wants part-time jobs under the employment section. So it's really anything that you do that's not your job.
Okay, just a quick reminder here, if you need more information about the essay, you can always book a free consultation with Jessica or mbaMission, and you can always kind of look at the MBA analysis. We have that. Abhijit, maybe you can post that. The Kellogg analysis, essay analysis over here. And then you, of course, have the guide for Kellogg, and I think this is for free, right? You just have to put your information. Okay, and then lastly, okay, great. Abhijit posted all of that.
If you can post that.
Right. And then the link to a free consultation, of course, you can get that as well from the chat. And I think over here you have the free guides. Take advantage of those as well. Very, very important. And if you have questions that are very specific to your story or anything like that, you can always contact, Jessica. Jessica, Thank you so much. I feel so emotional because I'm like, oh my God, am I not going to see Jessica again? We have to do another one.
We'll do this in round two. Whatever you need, I'm always here. Thank you, everyone. I hope this is really helpful. Good luck with your application. And I don't know, best of luck. Reach out if we can help in any way.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Good luck. Bye-bye.